Hi, and welcome to the WeShape podcast. I'm Katie. I'm here with Nina and Tyler.
Hi, everybody.
We're really excited about today's episode. It's a special episode. We're currently running a WeShape challenge, and so I think all of our challenge participants are listening in. So
Hi,
hello.
challenge participants.
Hello. We will be dropping a secret code word at some point in this podcast for our challenge participants. And we actually have a special guest who is dropping the word. So stay tuned for that. The majority of our podcast episode today is going to be focused on the value of community and why we have spent so much time and energy and resources on having the community be a major pillar of WeShape as a whole. So if this is your first time listening in, welcome. Go check out some of our other episodes. We've recently released a number of amazing guests. But for today, we're just going to talk a little bit about our experience in the health and fitness industry as it pertains to community, especially around the mission that we have here at WeShape. So before we get started, we haven't met with each other in a little while for our podcast. So how is everyone?
We're good. I'm good. I'm killing it.
Today has been an interesting day today, but we're just going to roll with it and flow with it. Not every day you wake up is going to turn out quite like you thought, and it's really important to figure out how to get through each day and show up on the other side as your best self.
I said to our 9-year-old this morning, it's a bad morning, not a bad life. And I think that sometimes we get really stuck in this bad moment means bad life. And anytime we can have a chance to zoom out and go, oh, it's a bad moment, not a bad life.
Yeah, not identify with the moment as everything, even though it feels like that sometimes.
I love the
right?
you can restart your day at any time.
Yeah,
right?
that's beautiful.
I'm just going to pretend I'm just waking up right now.
Take some deep breaths and get going. Yeah.
So,
well, do you want to do like a little special announcement before we jump into
now we have to.
You guys are chomping at the bit. So.
Do you want to tell people what's happening in your life, Nina?
I do. WeShape's having a baby. I'm having a baby.
Yay!
Yay! There were many days on the podcast where I was feeling a little bit like I might lose my cookies. So I'm really happy to be feeling better.
And the cookies are safe.
The cookies are safe. Everything is secured. But yeah, I'm feeling really good, really excited. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
I am, as your best friend, exceptionally excited.
It's our pregnancy.
It feels that way. My mom was like, wow, you're really excited about Nina's pregnancy. I'm like, it feels like I'm having a baby. So I'm going to do my best to hold healthy boundaries around being with your child all the time. Your husband's going to be like, please leave my house. You can't live here.
I'm sure we will take all the help we can get. We are definitely in over our heads, but it's going to be fun.
Do you feel like I could quickly share the story about how she got her name?
Absolutely.
Because, so you're having a girl.
Yes.
Her name is?
Ruby Lemon.
Ruby Lemon. And I was, I just love this story because I actually didn't know this story until you told me. But I was like, that is the cutest name ever. And you said, well, your daughter picked out the middle name. And I said, wait, what? And she goes, yeah, about 5 months ago I came over.
Yeah.
And Ellie had said, oh my gosh, I had a dream about you guys last night that you had a baby girl and you named her Lemon. And then you and your husband were like, Lemon is the cutest name. And then that's how she's getting part of her name.
I know. Well, we both were like banding it around and we were like, we actually really like Lemon. Like, because we had nicknamed her Baby Lemon. We were like, well, when we have a baby, we'll call it Baby Lemon. And then it just got kind of real and we were like, let's just roll with it. So she can change it later when she's grown up and goes, that is so whimsical and weird, guys. But we're sticking with it.
I just love that my daughter had a dream about that, and now that's going to be your daughter's
I love
name.
it too because Macy, your littler one, she always goes, if she has a brother, will you name him Lime? We're like, yeah,
we're drawing the line.
No, I think one fruit for family is probably good. So
Rudy Lime.
Yeah,
Rudy Lime and Ruby Lemon.
That'd be great. I like it.
Anyway, we're really excited, and at some point, I'd love for you to talk about your experience in the future on another episode, just because a lot of our mission here at WeShape is to break down toxic weight loss culture, which is a very broad way of saying so many different things are put upon us as humans, but as specifically as a lot of people who identify as female, and so I'll be really curious to dissect some of your experiences as a woman being pregnant, as your body changes, the messages you get. So we'll do that another time.
Absolutely.
I know the story you might be referencing here, which is worth hearing. So you'll
We'll
have to
definitely
stick to
talk
the
about that.
podcast.
Yeah,
and
there's
we'll
been a
get
couple
there.
stories.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to talk a lot about why we have community here at WeShape. So I'm going to give a tiny bit of historical references to the businesses that we've run. So Tyler and I I've personally been in the fitness industry for 20 years now.
Wow.
And
Been a long time,
29 or 19 years. And you 15 years?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
And Tyler and I have always run some sort of fitness company together for the last 10 or 15 years. And there was a point where I said, we're really successful at these businesses. We're selling products that people are buying, but I still feel kind of empty inside and I don't quite understand why. And about 3 years ago, I came to you and I basically said, I'm not available for this business anymore. We were selling products that were targeted at get six-pack, abs, or do this or do that. And I just said, I know it's not sexy to sell wellness so much, but I can't focus on how people look. I want to provide people a product that focuses on how people feel. And I remember feeling like really by myself on that island. Like, how will I convince this entire company that is feeling proud and successful and, really happy about our accomplishments to say we're actually going completely different direction?
And everyone was telling you couldn't either. Like, there was no support from the outside.
Yeah. So the deeper that I got into our industry, specifically in the types of products we were selling, the more the narrative was, that's the way you make money, that's the way you sell it, and if you do it a different way, you're going against the grain and you don't know.
Well, and let me bring some clarity to this, right? Like, the industry is built around faster, less time and effort. You don't have to do anything in order to get results, right? And so the more bold I think somebody is who owns a fitness company in making these claims, the more likely people will buy your product because they have to do less to receive more. And so when you came to us and we started having these conversations, we're like, how are we going to be able to do this? Like, oh, it's going to take a lot of time and we're not focused on what it aesthetically does for you. We're focused on how it makes you feel. And it's definitely been an uphill battle to try and figure out how to connect with people. But I really see, particularly in this challenge too, I really see how much people are connecting with this message now. And it's a really beautiful thing. And I'm really happy we made that change. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to give people that context of like how, like, it's just so easy to just make up some claims and get after it and get a lot of people who are buying your products.
And people are trained to measure success in a certain way. Like, we're socialized to be like, if this is what success looks like.
Right.
And we're actually asking people to look at success in a totally different way, which is a huge ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, just to continue to reflect on that transition, because that was a very low point in my life when I felt like I was asking for something that nobody wanted. And then I would go to these business events and I would be like one of 10 females, right? There's like for every 10 men, there was only really one woman.
If that.
And a lot of the times people were nice to me. It wasn't like people were downright disrespectful. And I don't really feel like people even knew they would say the things that they would say. But
There was some downright disrespectful things that I
just want to
witnessed. So,
be kind
yeah.
in my communication
Sure.
right now. But there was a lot of people who basically was like, Tyler's the one who runs the business and Katie is his personal ad. I don't know what they really thought that I was, but they definitely didn't look at me as a leader in the health and fitness space. You were the leader. Mm-hmm. And so to go into a vision that I had with all the cards against me, right? I had a whole team that they weren't against me, but they were like, don't rock the boat. We're successful. We're doing this, we're doing what we think is amazing. And to even be in a partnership, in all transparency, where there was resistance in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I just want to take the opportunity to give women permission to follow their intuition and to follow their light, because I will tell you that without my closest friends during that time, I wouldn't have made it here. Nina and my other friend Amy, the entire time were like, just keep going. It doesn't matter what people say. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I even had Amy a couple weeks ago pull me aside and say, look at what you've done. And I could barely even acknowledge that work that I did. I was like, oh yeah, well, and she's like, please just, and I think that is part of I don't know if other people identify with that, but I do have a hard time saying, no, I did that. I took this ship that was going this way and I turned it this way, and I don't want to take any credit for it because it was a team effort too, right? So that's part of the reason, but
That's your imposter syndrome talking.
but she really said, Katie, look at the last 3 years. This has been extremely challenging for you, and you're finally doing what you love. And even the last time we went to an event, I had multiple people come up to me and say, something's different about you. Whatever you're doing, you're in love with. And I just can't tell you how gratifying and how soul-fulfilling it is to do something that you actually feel called to do in spite of what everyone tells you you can't do.
Wow.
So I want to use this experience to give other female entrepreneurs. I was never the entrepreneur. You were the entrepreneur. No one even allowed me to have that until I allowed myself to have it. And so I want to give all those females out there who doubt themselves, because it's okay if you're the only woman in the industry that you're in. It doesn't mean that your intuition or your vision or your guidance isn't valid. So I'm hoping to use this platform to one, just start and say, like, you're powerful, you're meaningful, and the things you want to do are important. And I'm so glad I fought that fight, because I have never felt more secure in what I'm doing and the message that I'm putting out into the world.
Hell yeah.
That's beautiful. It's really interesting that we're talking about this right now. I do a meditation every morning, and sometimes like things come to me and I write them down. And, this morning when I was sitting there, something just hit me. It was like, when we find presence, we find a connection to our truest selves, which is our authenticity. And yet we sacrifice our authenticity every single day in order to fit in. And in that, we seek outside of ourselves to feel whole, right? And that's where I think the root of like suffering and addiction and all this other stuff comes from. And what I'm hearing you say, and we've been on a lot of calls for this challenge too, where I've heard a lot of people say some really beautiful things already. It's, I am going to connect with myself. I'm going to take care of myself. This is my time to show up and take care of me. There's so many people who are taught that if you try to take care of yourself, or you advocate for yourself, or you live in your authenticity, that you don't fit in anymore. Yeah. So you need to go away. And that's why I think community is so important. Like we're talking about, you have to be this person who's authentic in themselves. And along the way, you need other people who are going to be like, heck yeah, be authentic, right? Because if everybody's tearing you down and you're like crabs in a barrel, right, where they're just pulling you down every time you try to climb out, you're gonna feel really stuck and alone.
No, like I'm not minimizing the statement that I said around if Amy and Nina weren't right there saying you have to keep doing what you know feels true for you, I wouldn't have. My community is what allowed me to be held in that space during that really difficult time. And it's funny because you're probably like, okay, yeah, but it was just the little things they would whisper in my ear when I would be like, I'm trying to get Tyler on board with this, but no one really quite understands. It's like, okay, it's okay. It doesn't matter. You don't have to explain yourself to us. And so right off the bat, the value that I see in community and where we can find value in community is if you feel you're being true to yourself and the people around you do not support that version of you, it's not a message for you to change yourself. Right. It's a message for you to change who you're surrounding yourself with. And I will say over the last couple of years, I've had to change some of the people I've even hung out with. Not in a means of I'm better or you're not, just in a means of like my priorities have shifted in this life. And I have to stay true to what I know is good for me. And I have to find that network of people. So if people are wondering why I incorporated a huge pillar of community into the product and into WeShape, it's because WeShape exists because of my community. That's why it's here. And so, I want to thank you, Nina. And if Amy's listening, which I think she does actually, because that's
Amy.
Thank you so much, because WeShape is here because I had community supporting me in that. And if you're connecting with self and you're finding that people don't support that, again, it's not indication that you need to really do anything other than find people who do.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the calls. So I was laughing the other day. So Tyler leads, so at WeShape we have what we call We Connect. In the product, you can click on the We Connect section and then it has all the different calls that we offer. Right now we offer We Coach calls, which are calls with Tyler to ask really movement-related questions, like I'm using the product but my shoulder still hurts, or I can't get up off the ground, do you have an alternative exercise, or questions that are all movement-related. Then we have the We Share calls, which is just about connecting with community. So I lead one of those a week. Nina leads one of those a week. Coach Kaysen leads a few. And then Coach Marilyn also has a call. And then we also have the challenge calls once a week. So those kind of go in and out as it pertains to when we're running the challenges. So we have that going on right now. So just to give the listeners perspective on the different types of calls we have. But the part of the reason I decided to incorporate that so heavily into the product was not only my own experience as to why WeShape even exists, but it was also because of that research I stumbled upon by Wendy Suzuki, who's a neuroscientist who had done some research on what contributed to longevity. Well, being in the health space, I'm like, it's going to be the quality of food, it's going to be the exercise, it's going to be this. And those things are important. But what she found was that connection and community was one of the top factors for longevity and a life well spent. And I said, oh, well, that's going to mean, a Nina in your life, right? And while that's amazing, and while that's carried me through many challenges over the last couple decades, she was really doing research on like the positive interaction you have with the barista at your local coffee shop. So then it hit me. I can't move forward with WeShape and with this mission in getting people to have a different relationship with their body and with movement and with toxic weight loss culture without having community, because we're doing something that's a little bit different. It's against the grain. It's going kind of against what we know to be true in magazines and social media and the messages that we all grew up with, which is there's one body type, the number on the scale matters, your worth is defined by how you look and what you can do with your body. And so community was born at WeShape partially because of my own experience, but partially because of that research I stumbled upon. I knew that it was extremely valuable. So if you're a WeShape member, go to the We Connect section of the product and join a call.
Come say hi to us.
And it's been really fun. I think the reason why this is so impactful, at least from my experience of just talking with a lot of people on these calls, especially in the challenge ones that we've done that are rather large at times with hundreds of people in them, is like I get this sense that people feel alone, right? And especially like you've said, your personal story, when you go against the grain, you really feel alone because you're like, dude, nobody understands my experience or believes in my experience right here. And one of the most powerful things about these calls is just giving people a platform just to share their experience and struggles. And when they share that, I see them all connected. I see one person's struggle similar to another person's struggle, similar to another person's struggle. And I think the underlying theme here is like, it's not all easy, right? Everyone has struggles. No matter who you are, what background you have, where you come from, we all have struggles. And when you notice that everyone has those struggles and they're all trying to accomplish the same thing, then you start to recognize like, oh, we're all together. Yeah. And then you don't feel alone.
There's a
like
normalization
the worst
that
thing
happens.
is feeling alone. I really think that's a powerful thing. And I don't know if Wendy Suzuki studied this, but just feeling connected to other is such a huge part of feeling whole.
I also want to properly introduce her. Her name's Dr. Wendy Suzuki.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't say that.
Well, when we share openly, in my life, I've had a lot of experience with this. When we share openly, we give permission for others to share openly and like shine their light a little brighter. But when you say things, especially in an open format like that, where people are they're not sharing to have a response or advice or things offered to them, they're just sharing to share. It's amazing what actually happens to the people who are listening. Because I think sharing and getting things off your chest is so cathartic. It's so helpful. But like sometimes someone will say something in a group setting, like when I'm on a call, and I'll be like, that just changed me. Even though I wasn't participating in what they just said, they don't know that I've had that same thought. And it's this normalization process that happens where you're like, I am one of many, rather than I am a single person who I'm the only person who's ever felt this way or thought this or been mean to myself like that. And I think we live in our brain all the time and it tells us a lot of things all day long. And I'm like, a lot of those things aren't even true. And if I check in with you or I check in with other close friends and then also other community members, I'm like, oh, it's not just me. I am not by myself.
And the funny thing too about that, now that I'm glad you're bringing that up, because like I might have 30 people on a call and like maybe only 5 people speak and the other 25 have their cameras off and are not speaking. That's fine. Yeah. Because sometimes just hearing other people speak, so I always encourage people, you're not required to even participate, but just joining and knowing that people are experiencing similar things or things that you may have thought of. I also have made it a point, part of our company culture, is I've asked all of the people who work for WeShape that they join at least one call a week. Don't have to have their camera on, don't have to speak, but I need people to see the impact of the work that they do here. Whether it's writing the code for the product, to helping people in support, to creating the content that goes on our social media. It doesn't matter to me. All of those pieces are what we're offering our community, and the people in our community as well as ourselves are benefiting from. And I think it's a phenomenal reminder for everyone on our team to join once, and we can go like, oh, the work that I'm doing here is actually having impact. Because a lot of people share very vulnerable stories, and it's really great to see that, like, okay, I was onto something here. People do want to connect with each other about this, and they do want to share and create community, and we have the platform to do that.
Yeah. It's beautiful. One thing I really like about what you said there was you don't have to talk. You can show up and just listen and just be a part of it. And I think that's such a beautiful way to dip your toes in the water if you're someone who is really like, wow, I really hear this and I hear the message. I want to show up for me. I want to show up to help myself feel better in my body, about my body. But you don't feel like maybe you're confident enough to come out in front of the camera and stuff like that. Because the reality is we become who we surround ourselves with. And the reason I personally believe this happens is because when you expose yourself to people, you start to align yourself with their beliefs, with their reality, right? And so their reality becomes your reality. And I know this from a long time ago. I remember right before I started my first actual business, I was listening to books on audio all the time. And I was working a job during the daytime that allowed me to do this. So I could listen to like 8-10 hours of audio, 2 times speed all day long. And I feel like that year was this monumental year in changing my beliefs and my mindset, because I was constantly exposing myself to this. So even people who are on there, I mean, just listening to a call once a week, or I've even seen people coming in there now like almost every single day. And it's like a beautiful reminder of just like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is who I'm doing it with. There's people there that I can lean on for support. And I think that's that kind of, if you take those actions, it will really help you change the way you're showing up for yourself.
I was laughing because the other day I was doing one of my WeShare calls, and someone had joined, and she was like, oh, it's my first day. I didn't know what these calls were. And she goes, I just needed a workout. And I said, well, at WeShape, we
There's a little more to it than that.
we talk a lot about our intentions. We focus on movement with the workouts. We focus on community, and then we focus on beliefs. And one of the platforms that we have is our podcast. And she went, wait, what? All of that is included? I didn't know. And it was really great to see, like, oh no, like your wellness and your connection with yourself and your body is more than just pushing play on a workout and burning calories. Like, we actually completely have a different perspective on how this journey to wellness should be. So it's been the calls have been incredibly gratifying. I actually learned so much from people's stories.
Yeah.
And it's like never what you think. I've had a couple amazing calls where people are talking about, and this is something I've experienced in my journey of wellness and like relating to my body and body image and just all of those pieces. But they were talking about how that connection with self that we just both touched on, or all of us touched on rather, where they said, I was asked by my doctor's office to change and if this woman's listening, I hope you are. It's so nice to see you on the calls. I hope you come back next week and see me again. But she said, I got a call from my doctor's office and they wanted me to change my appointment time. And that wasn't going to work for my day. And I decided not to say yes. And normally she would have said yes. She was like, absolutely, of course I'll move.
I just got anxiety.
Yeah, like I'm like, of course I'll do whatever you want. You're the doctor, right? Like you're an expert. And she said, no, I'm not available to move that time. And I was like, that's the aha that they got? Like, what a cool thing, because we don't realize how connected it all is. Changing your relationship with your body, changing the way that you feel about yourself inside your body actually affects every single part of your life.
Yeah.
It's not just, hey, I'm a little bit more flexible, my back hurts a little less. It's also like, yeah, no, that doesn't work for my day. I'm going to actually keep my promise to myself and have my plan go the way I wanted it to go. And I was like, heck yeah, like that's so great. And to make that connection, because that's a hard one to realize all is connected.
I think you bring up a really good point, and this is something that I also see on these calls a lot. And especially like, we did this first challenge call where we talked about what's your why, what's your intention. And so many people came on and were like so real and I swear to God, I was holding back tears like the entire time. I was just like, this is just such a beautiful call with everybody just expressing themselves in such an honest and open way. But I think that sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. I was thinking about the call.
There's so many good things to talk
about.
Like,
I was getting all emotional
I have
there
all
for a
these
second.
things I want to
No,
share.
what did you say there for a sec? Let me go back to that.
About not changing her doctor's appointment?
Yes. Okay. So the theme that I kept seeing over and over again was people just realizing that I have spent my whole life not showing up for me.
Yeah.
I have spent my whole life just looking at myself in the mirror and going, you're last, everyone else is first.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that, I know that this is more prevalent in women than it is in men, where it's like your value is how you look and how much you show up for other.
Right.
And it's so sad to see people who are 50, 60, 70 years old just now learning
But it's not
that
too
you
late.
can give yourself
Never.
permission to show up. But it's not too late. That's super important. It's not too late. You can wake up today and you could say, hey, what do I want to do? What do I need to feel good? What do I need to do for myself so I can feel good? You know?
Yeah.
It's like we get on the airplane and they tell you the whole thing about oxygen masks, right? I say this over and over again, right? It's like they say, put your oxygen mask on first so you can help someone else. And then in real life, what do? We wake up, some buzz hits, we reschedule our doctor's appointment, all this stuff falls apart. We never take care of ourselves, right?
We were
So you
on a
gotta
trip
do it.
recently and we were like rushing to get out somewhere and it was freezing and I got everyone bundled and I forgot my jacket, but we were late so I couldn't go back and I was like, I'm freezing. And I was like,
just chattering.
and then I was laughing at myself. I was like, that's your little message that you're still not thinking about. You're still worrying about everyone else. Then we get to the breakfast place. We're like, hurry, we have to like get the food because we have this
Oh my
appointment.
God, I remember this morning.
And
That was
then
so funny.
and then everyone sits down, they get all their food and I go, damn it, I forgot to order my breakfast. I was
No.
like, how many times? It was like and I just kind of laughed again and I was like, yep, there's the
universe
message
was
again.
like, hey, girl.
Yeah,
Well, you
there's
didn't
the
even go
message
further
again.
too, because like then you ordered a smoothie, and then we had to run up to make this appointment,
so
and you like
upset.
ran up the stairs, and you were like, "Wait, where's my smoothie?" And you went back down, and like, "Oh my God, I forgot to go grab it." You know, you were just in the zone of just take care of
Making sure
everyone
everybody
else.
else was. And so it's
Yeah.
not something that you just overcome overnight.
No.
But it's okay to give yourself permission to say, I'm going to step back and see, like, are the things that I'm doing in my life genuinely serving my best interest? And how can I start to make small incremental changes that
It's baby
make a
steps. It's tiny
big
stuff.
impact over time? We're talking about like one little step, not 100 steps that happen overnight, right? Which is basically the antithesis to the entire story we've ever been fed in the health and fitness industry. It's you wake up on Monday morning and that's when you're going to
go
do
time.
this. Yeah. That's not how it works here at WeShape. It's small incremental changes. So
I want to be super clear on something here. When we say like you've been told to show up for other your whole life and it's time to show up for yourself, that doesn't mean you can't show up for others. But there's a distinction there that I want to point out, is that if you've spent your whole life showing up for other people out of guilt or conditioning or shame or obligation, then the entire time you're doing that, you're doing it because you feel like you're supposed to do it.
Right.
And if you start showing up for yourself and you create space for you, well, you actually create space for other. And you might do the same thing to show up for someone else as you did before, but the feeling won't be resentment or obligation.
Yeah.
It will be, I'm caring for this person because I want to care for this person.
Right.
And that's what I really want people to get to, is care enough for yourself that you create enough space to do for other, right? So that you can do this out of love and compassion and kindness.
I think it comes from a place of like almost abundance. Like
Yeah.
as you fill your own
Yes,
cup, you're like,
that's beautiful.
oh, I
was looking
have
for a
more.
word. I was looking for a word.
I
there.
got you with
Abundance.
words.
I like that.
I'm your girl. But it comes from a place of, as I do more for myself and as I lean into that part of self-connection that I want to build, I have more space and time. It almost like maximizes my resiliency to my ability to show up for other. I'm like, oh, I'm checked in and good here. So I have room for this.
Oh, it's so
and
true.
that is, I don't know, that's a big change for me because I think a lot of it comes from obligation and you're supposed to, right? So then you're like, I feel empty inside and there's not that much to pour out.
I feel like with that mic drop, we should do the special word now.
Oh.
We're going to do the word.
All right.
Special word.
Okay, I'm going to bring in my special guest for the word.
I'm Ellie Brown, and the secret word today is coconut.
All right, we're back.
Oh my God.
That was really funny that
Isn't
that
she
worked
adorable?
out today.
That was part of the craziness I was talking about in the beginning of this episode, was just how like one kid came home from school and another kid was like, maybe we need to go pick him up. It was just a wild.
You adapted beautifully though.
Yeah, we
wow.
brought her in office. We delayed the recording of this by a little bit. And then when she got here, of course, she was like, you're going to let me on the podcast,
She was down
right?
to do the whole thing.
I know.
She's like, just interview me. We're
Oh
like,
my
about
God.
what would you tell people?
She's like, she's like, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out on when I go.
I got
And
it.
was
She's
like,
ready.
You are your father's daughter. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out as I go. I love it. I really
Building a-
admire people who can do that.
Yeah, we jump out of the airplane and build a parachute on the way
I
down.
almost stole your line just then, but I let you.
Yeah.
Thank you, pal.
But Ellie, so the word coconut. That's the word that Ellie chose.
Someone wouldn't have just been in Hawaii, would she have?
No.
Oh man.
And so, Tyler, where do they submit that?
I don't know where they submit that. To be totally frank, they're going to go into their challenge dashboard.
Challenge dashboard.
And
That's
there's going to be right there, and there's going to be some sort of submit right there. So.
Apologies to our director of marketing
know,
for
yeah,
that little
sorry
slip just
there.
now.
No,
Coach Helen is cringing
I know.
right now.
Stay tuned to the
We're
emails.
all fired.
Stay tuned to the emails. That's
so
where
sorry,
we're going to
Helen.
share. Let me say it. Stay tuned to the emails. That's where we're going to share how to do everything in there. Okay.
Absolutely.
So yes.
Okay, follow the.
You will have further instruction.
But the word is coconut. That's the most important thing you'll take from this podcast.
Come to a call. Just tell us coconut. No.
So I want to piggyback on something I said before
Sure.
the coconut. All right, before we got to coconut here. So we were talking about how showing up for yourself doesn't mean you can't show up for another.
Yeah.
And how if you can really show up for yourself, then you create space for yourself because you feel that abundance was the word that you pulled out of a hat. I loved there, and you can provide that for others. And I think that's so beautiful. That being said, having watched both of you to some degree, especially Katie, go on this journey of learning how to show up for yourselves in a much more meaningful way, I think it's important that you also give yourself the space for it, and that you communicate with the people that are really important to you about it, and that you ask for that support, that community and that support, right? Because if you're sitting there and you're, oh my God, I'm so codependent, I say yes to everything, and then you just start saying no to everything, you don't have any conversations, this could be like a recipe for a really, like a big disaster, a lot of friction.
You get whiplash if you just go like totally.
Yeah. And I think it's important that when you're trying to repattern the way that you're showing up, your beliefs, your actions, etc., that you do give yourself some space and some grace
I was
for that.
just going to say grace is such a key part of that.
It's
Well, I
so
think
big.
the natural human beings like to be polarized. It's black or it's white.
Yeah.
It's yes or it's no. Like, we don't like gray, we don't like maybe, but the truth about the world is that everything is maybe and everything is really gray. And so I think the other thing that I struggled with too in sort of my intention to kind of acknowledge that I didn't like that I didn't have any space for myself, which I didn't even know I was doing that at the time. But that's what was happening, is there was something inside of me that says, we don't like the way you don't show up for yourself. And the only person who has the power to make this change within you is you. And so what we normally do is when we don't like something and we finally decide to change it, we go the extreme opposite. So for me, that looked like overly harsh boundaries, like...
You had overly harsh boundaries in the beginning?
And so...
I wasn't aware of that.
And
No, I'm
so
just kidding.
there comes a point of calibration. So that's what I'm saying. Like, none of this work is really done overnight. And that's why the very first step when people come to WeShape is about intention. And the intention is just with you and yourself. I have an intention of better understanding how I can show up for myself more. I have an intention of learning how to connect with my body in a way I haven't before. I have a connection of taking better care of myself. Like, these small intentions will then provide the opportunity for small micro changes to happen over time.
Over years, right?
I
mean, that's the
made that
reality.
decision kind of unconsciously about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And today is a very different looking day for me in terms of how I take care of myself, how I prioritize rest, how I prioritize who I spend my time with, what I like to even do on the weekend, right? Like, but that did not happen overnight. And I did have to learn really hard lessons about overly harsh boundaries and polarization and black and white thinking. And like, I really had to transform some of the ways that I thought about what that change should look like. And so giving yourself permission to acknowledge that you want change, but then also giving yourself permission to take the time that it needs, and that there's nothing dramatic that needs to happen today. And that's part of the mission here at WeShape, is to accept people where they are and how they are right now, and to offer tools for making those small steps and incremental changes with the goal of connecting with self more. That's all we're doing here at WeShape. And that's why we're focusing on, we believe that the 4 pillars to achieve that are first intention, then movement, not to be confused with exercise and crazy workout routines, then community and beliefs, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited that we ran this challenge. And when people are listening for the first time, if they're not in the challenge, like, oh, a challenge, like it's not like your normal challenge. The entire purpose of the challenge, week 1 was intention, week 2 was movement, week 3 was community, week 4 was beliefs. It's just breaking down our understanding of some of these things as a means, as a tool to connect with ourselves in a different way than we have before.
And it's beautiful, this connect with ourselves that we've been talking about this whole time. It's something that's so hard for people to do. It really is.
They don't
hard.
teach you.
They don't teach you. Everybody teaches you to not connect with yourself, to go do what everybody else wants. But here's the reality of the situation is when we do everything for everybody else, we start to feel kind of crappy, right? And then we make decisions from that place. We make decisions to continue our struggle, right? And if we just took a moment and said, what's one thing I can do for me right now? What's one person I can connect with that will lift me up rather than tear me down? If we can just do that, like maybe once a day, even once a week, right? That little bit will change how you feel about yourself. And then you make better decisions from that place. Because that's the reality. If you feel good about yourself, you make decisions from that place. And you make good decisions when you feel good.
It's a
you make
snowball
bad
effect.
decisions when you feel bad.
Either way.
Right?
Do you know what my one thing was that's really was the thing I started doing for myself?
What's that?
Like the first thing?
Yeah.
Sleeping.
No. But that was definitely not the first thing. That took
Okay.
me years. Come on, you guys.
I feel like it
Shopping?
was drinking more water.
Shopping, really? I do less shopping than I've ever
the grocery
done.
store with your
Oh.
friend there.
No, it was taking a bath every night.
Oh, the bath.
that's a
yes.
good one.
Yes.
But not just
I knew it was
any-
water related.
Just girl.
Something aquatic
But-
here.
There's definitely
But
liquid.
not just any bath. This
Right.
was a practice that I started with that I said, you're going to take a bath with no lights on, with a candle burning, with bubble bath, with Epsom salt, with essential oil, and you're going to tell your family, this 20 to 30 minute time is very important
I'm going to
to
get
me.
you a do not disturb sign for your bath.
Oh, they know. They know. And that was the first thing I did. And I remember feeling like, oh, this is too indulgent and every single night a bath and it was the door that opened for me. So that's what I mean. It wasn't like I woke up and started exercising every day.
I love how people are like, a bath, how luxurious. You know, like, I'm like, you're not the queen of sheep, but like, that's a normal thing to do. It's okay to take a bath.
Yeah, and I do that every single day. I take a bath after. I do have it in a time where I feel like I'm going to really get the most relaxation. So for me, it's after I put my kids to bed early. That's like a boundary I have in my family. But my kids go to bed early, and then I take a bath first thing. And Tyler knows, like, this isn't a time for Katie to have discussion. In the beginning, though, you would come in and be like, do you know this thing that happened in the business? And I'd be like, you can tell me about that
now
in 29
I don't even
minutes.
talk to you anymore. I
Yeah.
go put my podcast in, wrap up the
But
night, do a little
I
stretching.
taught you the boundary around what I had
Yeah,
there.
that's
I
true.
taught you how to treat me in that environment, and I set up the stage. But it was the bath that allowed me to do this one thing for myself every day. So again, it's not something that's insane that happens overnight. It's a small act of self-care and self-love, and maybe you hate the bath, and that's fine. Pick something else. Maybe it's a 20-minute walk by yourself after dinner. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's those small, tiny things that add up. Now I can barely go on vacation because when I'm on
I was
vacation,
just going to comment on this.
not even fun
I was
anymore.
just going to say this.
because my routine has become so so much self-care that when I'm on vacation, I'm so out of my routine, and I'm like, I kind of just want to go back
I want to
home.
go home.
I want to go back to the routine.
I
I
wanna go
mean,
back to-
that's a beautiful thing, though, is when you get to go on this vacation that most people would be like, wow, what a wonderful vacation. And you're having a fun time, but you're like, I'm really looking forward to going home and being a part of my routine. I'm really looking forward to going home and getting back to work. Like, that's
build
when
a life you
yeah.
don't want to escape from.
Right.
Yeah.
Build
Right?
a
Like
life you
it
don't
can
wanna
actually
escape
be a
from.
pleasurable experience,
Yeah.
even with work, even with stress. Those are always going to exist. But you can actually create an environment in your life when you do have that connection with self where you're like, I'm stressed, I'm going through some stuff, but I'm not like trying to run from this.
Well, that's what I thought about on our trip we just took. I was like, I used to use this vacation every year we took in February as a way to escape the life I had built for myself.
Yeah.
And this year, I wanted back to the life I had built for myself.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so amazing.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's a
It's
beautiful
possible.
thing.
But it took me 3 years.
And a whole
I
lot
still
of
have-
support and community.
And in the scheme of things, 3 years, it's not that long of a time,
And
right?
and guess what? My journey's not over. It's for the
No.
rest of my life.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, well, I'm so grateful that everyone tuned in today. Please, we hope that this podcast conveyed the value of community. Please join our calls. You have unlimited calls in your WeShape membership. So we really hope you join one of the coach calls where you can ask Tyler movement-related questions or one of the WeShare calls. We'll see you guys there. And don't forget the code word is coconut.
Coconut. Show up for yourselves, right? And then if you feel like you can't show up for yourselves, reach out to the community and say, I'm really struggling to show up for myself.
Yeah.
So
We're here.
lean on everybody. We're here.
All right. See you next week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.